Robert Townsend lived in the most dangerous place a patriot could possibly choose, the heart of British occupied New York City during the Revolution. By day, he was a merchant and a newspaper writer. By night, he was Samuel Culper Jr., the man feeding George Washington some of his most exact, detailed, and life saving intelligence of the entire Revolutionary War. He didn't sail ships or ride across battlefields. He walked openly through enemy headquarters, listened carefully, and then disappeared back into the crowd with the secrets that could decide an entire campaign. Welcome to our Republic.
When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political band,
sailors and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not
one small step for man. Those three hallowed words reverently dictate what you ought to be, what you can be, what you will
we
be.
pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Townsend was born in 1753 into a prominent Quaker family on Long Island. His upbringing emphasized restraint, discipline, and quiet conviction. By the time the war broke out, he had set himself up as a businessman and writer in New York City, just as the British seized control of it in 1776. Once the city fell, it became the main British military hub in North America. Tens of thousands of troops moved through its ports. Officers filled its taverns and boarding houses. Loyalists controlled the streets. Big surprise for New York. And patriots were watched, hunted, and arrested. Again, big surprise for you, New York. Seems nothing's changed. But Townsend stayed. Living openly as a patriot inside British New York was nearly impossible. British officers spoke freely in front of merchants, printers, and shopkeepers. They assumed loyalty unless proven otherwise. That assumption became Townsend's greatest weapon. He ran a dry goods business. He wrote for newspapers. He listened in taverns. He delivered materials to British officers, and constantly, quietly, he absorbed military information, troop numbers, naval movements, supply shortages, planned raids, and reinforcements. Every conversation was a risk. Every overheard sentence could be his last. But in 1778, Townsend was quietly recruited into the Culper spy ring through his connection to Abraham Woodhull and Commander Benjamin Talmadge. Townsend received his code name Samuel Culper Jr., and from that point forward, nothing he saw or heard could be written plainly. All correspondence again was encrypted, hidden in invisible ink, or buried inside business records. What Townsend collected in Manhattan traveled a long, fragile road, again through Woodhull, across Long Island Sound with Webster, and into the hands of George Washington himself. Unlike most spies who gathered bits and pieces, Townsend produced detailed intelligence. Again, he identified British troop movements through the city, arrival and departure of regiments, supply shortages and resupply schedules, loyalist conspiracies, naval departures from the New York harbor. His reports were precise enough for Washington to time troop movements and protect vulnerable positions before the enemy could strike. Washington later referred to Townsend as one of the most reliable intelligence officers and sources he ever possessed. Townsend lived inside a city full of British officers, informants, military police. Any suspicious behavior could lead to imprisonment or execution. More than once, British counterintelligence came frighteningly close to uncovering the Culper network. At one point, British suspicion centered so tightly on Setauket that the sound crossings that Washington briefly ordered parts of the ring to go silent to avoid collapse. Through it all, Townsend remained inside the city, watching, recording, and waiting. Townsend's intelligence played a role in exposing the full scope of that loser Benedict Arnold's treason. While Arnold's direct betrayal unfolded at West Point, Townsend's network supplied broader information and confirmation of British plans and expectations surrounding Arnold's defection. The spy ring failed to stop Arnold from escaping, but it succeeded in preserving Washington's life and prevented the collapse of the Hudson River defense. And I was going to do an episode on Benedict Arnold, but I don't want to give that guy any more freaking. I just don't want to talk about him. So we have somebody else in place. We're going to do Austin Rowe instead of Benedict Arnold. I don't want to give that loser any credit for anything. When independence was secured, Townsend did not step forward as a hero. Like many of the intelligence officers I've mentioned before, he returned quietly to civilian life. He continued his business, lived privately, and never publicly revealed his role as a spy. Even his own family wouldn't learn what he had done for decades. For most of American history, the name Robert Townsend meant nothing. Only the code name Samuel Culper Jr. survived in Washington's files. Robert Townsend lived his life in plain sight, hiding a war inside his everyday routine. While armies clashed in the open, he fought in whispers and ink and coded lines that crossed enemy waters. The guy was incredible, brave. The resolve you have to be able to do something like that is just crazy. I love it. True patriots. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. Remember, history isn't boring. It's a story of a merchant who stood inside the enemy's capital and helped bring down the empire from the inside. We will see you next time.